The internet is buzzing tonight, and not for the reason you think. Joe Rogan just pointed at the loudest quiet in Hollywood, the strange silence around Ellen DeGeneres, now that Diddy dominates every headline, and fans are shocked. Old talk show clips are resurfacing, timelines are colliding, and comment sections.
Talking about Diddy and his oil parties with these 18-year-olds, like, do I think it's good? No. I want to beat up their dad, but other than
Sections look like crime boards. We're not saying anything has been proven. We're talking about what people are saying, what's trending, and why the timing feels explosive. Viewers keep replaying those lighthearted party jokes from years ago and asking why no one's asking tougher questions now. Emotions ran high after Rogan's take.
Vicious.
All right, we're back with Sean Diddy Combs. Is it Diddy today? Because sometimes you're Puffy and sometimes you're Diddy. Or sometimes you're Daddy. What are you today?
I'm so confused today.
With some calling it overdue and others calling it reckless. Meanwhile, paparazzi moments, awkward smiles, and no-comment walkaways are fueling speculation. The family of fandoms is split, the industry looks divided, and the court of public opinion is already in session. Tonight, we connect the chatter, the resurfaced footage, the pointed questions, the sudden quiet.
About it, the silence is deafening.
So I guess Diddy just kept people at his houses because he's got multiple houses and he's just had freak out part. Look at him. Look at Saucy sat down and go, Saucy.
No, Saucy's crazy. Have you?
No verdicts here, just the story. Everyone else is tiptoeing around. If the dots are there, who's drawing the line? Stay with me, because the clips, the comments, and the contradictions are about to collide. You won't believe who shows up in the final frame. Podcast. It wasn't a planned takedown or a media stunt. It was one of those moments when he leaned forward, mid-conversation, voice lower than usual, and said, "Why is no one talking about Ellen?" That single question rippled through the internet like an earthquake. Within hours, clips were circulating everywhere, Ellen and Diddy laughing on old talk shows. The audience cheering, jokes about late-night parties that suddenly didn't sound so funny anymore. It was as if a vault of forgotten moments had been unlocked, and everyone wanted to see what was inside. The discussion wasn't about guilt or innocence. It was about silence. Joe's point wasn't that Ellen was involved in anything, but that she had been there, on stage, face-to-face with one of Hollywood's biggest enigmas. And now that the spotlight had turned harsh on Diddy, Ellen had vanished into the background. The internet started asking questions. Why? What did she know? Was it just coincidence? Those questions alone were enough to spark a frenzy. Fans were glued to their screens, replaying interviews, dissecting every laugh, every side glance. Interview 117, 129. Ellen had always been Hollywood's friendly face, the one who made people laugh even when the headlines outside her studio walls were brutal. But after Joe's remark, that smile was suddenly up for debate.
Destroyed.
Was it the same kindness that built her empire, or was it a mask? It didn't help that her past scandals were still fresh in public memory. The toxic workplace allegations, the teary apology, the quiet retreat after her show ended, all of it started resurfacing. And this time, people weren't forgiving. A producer who once worked on her show anonymously told a tabloid, Ellen controlled everything: the timing, the tone, even the lighting. Nothing went on that she didn't approve. Those words were meant to describe her work ethic, but online, they took on a darker life. Suddenly, that control sounded like power, and power always has shadows. Commentators on podcasts, TikTok, and Twitter began connecting dots that may or may not have existed. But once those theories start, they don't stop. One tweet read, "Ellen joked about knowing Diddy's midnight parties. Now she's silent. Make it make sense." It had over 1 million views before it was deleted. Inside Hollywood, the reaction was quieter but sharper.
Celebrities like
Some of
Ellen,
Ellen's
who
old
literally had
guests,
multiple
comedians, and
conversations
musicians
with
who
Diddy
owed her
about
their
these
breakout
parties
moments
on national
refused to
television
comment.
are staying completely
Others hinted
silent
at how
now.
different
The
she
most
was
suspicious part,
off camera.
in one interview
She
from
was always
2018,
professional,
Diddy
but
told
cold.
Ellen, "I
One
invite you
former
to all
guest
my
said,
parties, but
it
you
was
just
like she
haven't
was
seemed to
guarding
show up."
something.
Then he talked
These
about
weren't
how the parties
accusations,
start at
but in the
9:30
feverish
p.m.,
world of
but the
celebrity
real
gossip,
parties, the
they didn't
different
need to
type
be.
of party,
People
start at
filled in the
midnight
blanks
on
on
the
their
top
own.
2 floors of hotels.
Interview
Ellen's
303,
reaction,
315.
She said, "Oh no, I know
When
about them."
reporters approached
Wait,
Ellen
what?
outside a
Nope.
countryside estate in England, she didn't stop. She smiled faintly, said nothing, and closed the gate behind her. The clip went viral within minutes. People called it the most uncomfortable silence on camera. It became the meme of the week. Ellen tending to her garden while headlines screamed her name. Ellen walking her dog while comment sections demanded answers. The silence itself became a story. Joe Rogan's fans defended his comments, saying he was simply doing what journalists refused to ask him. Why the same industry that canceled Ellen for being mean was now shielding her from questions about her connections. Others accused him of stirring the pot for views. But either way, his questions stuck. It wasn't about evidence. It was about perception. And in Hollywood, perception can destroy a career faster than facts ever can. Then came the resurfaced clip from 2018. Diddy, sitting on Ellen's couch, grinning as she teased him about his name. Puff, Diddy, Puffy, Diddy it, was all lighthearted until he mentioned the parties. The real ones start at midnight, he said with a wink. The audience laughed. Ellen smiled. Oh, I know about those, she said. The studio crowd roared, but now, 6 years later, that smile didn't feel the same. That sentence echoed differently, like a line in a movie you only understand after watching it. Twice, 3:43:48, the video was everywhere. Creators slowed it down, zoomed in on her expression, replayed her tone. Was it nervous laughter? Knowing laughter, nobody could tell. Yet everyone had an opinion. Look at her eyes, one user posted. That's the look of someone who knows more. Others pushed back, saying people were reading too much into harmless humor. But the debate had already become wildfire. Entertainment blogs jumped in, calling it the biggest internet mystery since the Oscars slap. Ellen's representatives stayed silent, releasing no statements. Her social media pages went inactive. Fans flooded her old posts with comments like, "Talk to us, and you owe us answers." Some begged her to go on Rogan's podcast to clear things up. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman who spent decades asking others questions was now being asked one she couldn't seem to answer. And that's when the tone of the story shifted. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was cultural autopsy. People started talking about what Ellen represented: fame built on kindness, comedy, and control. How much of that image was real? Joe's simple observation had become a mirror for the audience itself. Maybe it wasn't just about Ellen or Diddy. Maybe it was about how easily people believe what they want to, how quickly they forget, and how the internet resurrects everything when it's convenient. Interview 434-405. Behind closed doors, industry insiders whispered about her next move. Was she planning a comeback? Another Netflix special? Or was she gone for good, content with her retreat in the English countryside? One insider claimed she'd been approached for a tell-all documentary but refused, saying, "I'm done explaining myself to people who already made up their minds." Another said she'd been in talks to start a podcast with a new name. No guests, just her voice, Ellen Unfiltered. But whether those rumors were real or not, they kept her name alive in every algorithm for someone who had supposedly quit fame. Ellen was everywhere again this time, without saying a word. Her silence had become her brand, her mystery, her shield. But silence, as Joe Rogan pointed out, can speak louder than anything. Every day that passed without her addressing the speculation, the theories multiplied. Screenshots of her old tweets, clips of celebrity guests, even jokes from monologues were being reinterpreted in the harsh light of hindsight. One tweet said it best: Ellen built a career on making people talk. Now the world's talking about her, and she's gone mute. That's when the story stopped being about what Joe Rogan said and became about what Ellen refused to say. Then came a twist nobody expected. An old producer from Rogan's team revealed that Joe almost cut that line out of the podcast before publishing it. He wasn't trying to start anything, the producer said. He just noticed the silence. We debated leaving it in. Then Joe said, "Nah, people should hear it." Within hours, it became the most quoted moment of the episode. The irony wasn't lost. Joe didn't accuse, he just questioned. And that one question became the spark that reignited Hollywood's quietest controversy. The whole situation blurred the line between curiosity and obsession. People were no longer talking about Ellen as a comedian. They were treating her like a case study. Videos titled "The Downfall of Ellen DeGeneres" explained flooded YouTube again. Her old colleagues started getting calls from journalists. Some refused to answer, others gave vague, cautious comments like "Elon's complicated," or "There's always more than you see," or "There's always more than you see." And then, just as the noise reached its loudest, Ellen posted something for the first time in months: a picture of a sunrise over a field, captioned with 3 words, "Still being kind." No hashtags, no explanation. The internet exploded again. Was it sarcasm? Defiance? Redemption? Nobody could tell. Joe Rogan's remark had done what even years of controversy couldn't hit, made Ellen a mystery again. And in Hollywood, being a mystery is sometimes worse than being guilty. The moment Ellen's Sunrise post went live, everything shifted again. The comment sections lit up like wildfire. Some fans cheered her on, saying she deserved peace after all the backlash. Others called it tone-deaf, accusing her of hiding behind vague positivity while real questions piled up. And somewhere in between, conspiracy channels began breaking down that single photo like it was a crime scene. They zoomed in on the clouds, the timestamp, the direction of the light, claiming it matched a location near Surrey, England where, according to rumors, she'd been living in quiet isolation. Within 24 hours, the picture had been viewed over 10 million times. Joe Rogan hadn't even responded yet, but the internet was already writing its own script. Podcasters started connecting Ellen's vanishing act to Hollywood's culture of selective accountability. They brought up how quickly some stars were canceled while others slipped through untouched. The real story, one host said, isn't what Ellen did or didn't. Dudes, why people are scared to even ask. That line echoed across platforms, clipping its way through TikTok Reels and YouTube Shorts, with users splicing it over dramatic music and black and white montages of Elon's old interviews. Elon's friends were caught in the middle. A-list names who once laughed beside her on the couch now avoided mentioning her at all. A comedian who once called her a mentor and a menace tweeted, then deleted. Some smiles don't age well. Reporters tried to get quotes from old coasters, but the only ones speaking were the former employees who had nothing left to lose. One of them told a gossip column, "We were told to protect the image at all costs. If a guest made her uncomfortable, they were cut from the final edit. If a staffer spoke up, they disappeared the next day." These claims had floated around for years, but now they found new oxygen. Combined with Rogan's comments, they painted a picture of something deeper in unspoken rule in Hollywood. Silence protects power, and Ellen, once the face of daytime laughter, had become the symbol of that silence. What made it worse was the footage that started resurfacing. Clips of her and Diddy on stage at award shows, the playful teasing. The laughter that used to seem harmless, but now carried an edge. Viewers started compiling Ellen and Diddy moments, complete with dramatic music and captions like the moments we missed. One clip in particular went viral, Ellen joking, "I'll come to your party if I survive the last one," followed by a mischievous wink. It was an old joke from a 2014 segment, but now people swore it was something else entirely. Rogan finally addressed the chaos a few days later on his next podcast. His tone was calm, even casual. "Look, I'm not saying Elon's done anything wrong," he said. "I'm just saying it's weird. People are loud when it's convenient and quiet when it's not. That's all." But it was too late. The damage was done. Millions of listeners clipped that sentence and spread it everywhere, twisting it into something heavier than he meant. By then, the paparazzi had staked out Elon's countryside home. Tabloids published grainy photos of her and Porsche shopping at a local farmer's market, looking uneasy but smiling politely. One headline read, "Ellen looks tense as Rogan controversy explodes." Another simply said, "Where there's smoke, it didn't matter that she hadn't done anything new." The story had momentum, and momentum doesn't stop for facts. In Los Angeles, former TV producers started talking again. One described a secret dinner party at Ellen's home years ago, small, exclusive, invitation only. Everyone thought it was just another industry gathering, the producer claimed, but you could feel the tension. It wasn't fun. It was curated. He didn't elaborate, but he didn't need to. The imagination of the public filled in the rest. Entertainment? Journalists debated on air whether Ellen had become Hollywood's scapegoat or its ghost. Some argued that she was paying the price for an entire culture's hypocrisy, where kindness was branded and sold like merchandise, only to collapse under its own perfection. Others said she was simply a master of timing, disappearing just before every storm hit. The contrast between Rogan's raw authenticity and Ellen's polished silence became the new storyline. One podcast opened with the line, "Joe talks. Ellen hides. That's the whole of Hollywood right there." Soon after, users began calling it the silence effect, a phrase describing how celebrities vanish when their narratives turn dangerous. The hashtag silence effect trended for 2 straight weeks. And then came the twist that nobody saw coming. An old video from Elon's farewell season in 2022 resurfaced one where she joked, "If I ever disappear, it's because I finally said too much." It was supposed to be a punchline. But in 2025, it sounded like foreshadowing. People flooded the comments. Did she know? Was she hinting? Ellen predicted her own vanishing act. It was absurd, but it kept the algorithm alive. And that's all it took. The line between truth and speculation blurred even more when an anonymous blog claimed that Ellen had been subpoenaed to testify in connection with one of Diddy's civil cases. There was no evidence, no official source, but the post spread faster than any retraction could. Within hours, people were convinced it was real. A fake screenshot of a legal document even began circulating online, complete with forged letterhead. Fact-checkers debunked it, but the damage was irreversible. One influencer said it best, "Facts don't trend, feelings do." Meanwhile, Elon's team remained silent. No statements, no posts, nothing. Even her close circle reportedly stopped taking media calls. The vacuum created its own narrative. Some said she was hiding, others said she was planning something big. Her Netflix special, which had seemed like closure when it premiered, suddenly looked like the opening act of something darker. Fans began replaying it, analyzing her jokes like confessions. "They canceled me because I was too kind," she said at one point, laughing. But the laughter that followed wasn't warm, it was defensive, brittle, almost tired. And then came the interview that reignited everything. A former stage manager from The Ellen Show appeared on a podcast and described the atmosphere behind the scenes as controlled chaos wrapped in fake smiles. She didn't mention Diddy at all, but her story was enough to send people spiraling. "Ellen had eyes everywhere," she said softly. "You'd think you were safe in the break room, but the next day she'd quote something you said. She knew everything." Rogan's question, why no one talks about Ellen, was starting to sound prophetic. What began as a casual remark had turned into a cultural reckoning. Fans, former employees, and gossip outlets all contributed to the noise, each adding another layer of speculation. By now, it wasn't about whether Ellen had done anything wrong. It was about how she had managed to disappear so completely while still being everywhere by the end of the week. A documentary channel uploaded a teaser titled Ellen, The Silence After the Smile. It featured nothing but black and white clips of her show's final moments, overlaid with Rogan's voice saying, "Silence speaks volumes." It racked up millions of views overnight. Even people who didn't care about celebrity gossip started watching. Just to understand how one woman went from America's sweetheart to Hollywood's missing voice, Elon's quiet retreat had become a symbol of something bigger. How fame can turn toxic, how image can consume truth, and how a single question can unravel an empire. And through it all, she still hadn't said a word. In the days that followed, the story refused to die down. Every time Elon's name slipped off the trending list, someone found another clip, another photo, another quote to pull it back into the spotlight. Entertainment shows ran montages of her old interviews side by side with Joe Rogan's podcast, Soundbite, letting the audience draw their own conclusions. Every time they played that line, "Why is no one talking about Ellen?" it landed like a challenge. Then came an unexpected voice. A comedian who had appeared on Ellen's show years ago went live on Instagram, clearly nervous, pacing around his living room. "Look, I'm not saying anything bad," he said, "but people don't realize how tense it was back there. You'd make a joke off script, and suddenly, you weren't invited back." She smiled through everything, but you could feel the control. The clip went viral overnight. Within hours, people had cut it into dramatic edits, complete with background music and captions like Elon's mask slipping. Elon's silence had become its own form of communication. The more she refused to respond, the louder the noise grew. Podcast hosts speculated she was consulting with lawyers. Tabloids claimed she was planning a tell-all special. Social media spun every move into evidence of something bigger. When she was photographed at a small cafe with Portia, looking down at her phone, someone captioned it, "Ellen reading Joe's next episode." Rumors about her quiet life in England were no longer just gossip, they had turned into a kind of myth. Locals in small villages claimed to have seen her buying groceries or walking her dogs at dawn. One woman even posted a blurry selfie, insisting Ellen was behind her in line at a bakery. It didn't matter whether it was true. It fed the narrative that Ellen was a fugitive from fame, hiding in plain sight. Joe Rogan, meanwhile, tried to move on. He had newer guests, newer topics, but his audience wouldn't let it go. Every episode's comment section was flooded with the same question. Any updates on Ellen? His co-host even joked about it, saying, "Dude, you created a monster." Joe just shrugged and laughed. "Nah, I just asked a question." But even he couldn't deny that the question had outgrown him. Back in Hollywood, the machine kept turning. Networks quietly scrubbed old reruns of The Ellen Show from their streaming platforms. Sponsors pulled vintage ads that featured her image. It wasn't an official cancellation, just a quiet erasure. Fans noticed and started compiling lists of what was disappearing. They're rewriting history, one TikToker said in a video that hit 5 million views. First, they made her famous for kindness. Now they're pretending she never existed. And then the narrative took another unexpected turn. Someone leaked an old recording from The Ellen Show office-eza behind-the-scenes audio. Clip that was never meant to go public. The sound was faint, muffled, but the internet insisted the voice was hers, giving instructions in a cold, flat tone. "No one goes near him until I say so," the voice said. "We do not need chaos today." No one knew what the clip was referring to or whether it was real, but within hours, hashtags exploded. Hashtag Ellen Leak. Hashtag Thavos Bahindism. Hashtag Control Room Queen. Fact-checkers called it unverifiable. But by then, truth didn't matter. It was drama, and drama sells. For Ellen's remaining defenders, this was the final straw. They started a campaign called Let Ellen Rest, arguing that enough was enough, that she'd served her time, that the world had turned her into a caricature. Others mocked the campaign, saying, "She's resting just fine in her mansion." Talk show panels debated her legacy like it was a national issue. Some painted her as a fallen idol, others as a misunderstood pioneer who had paid too high a price for ambition. Amid all this chaos, Portia tried to keep their private life hidden. She stopped attending events, canceled a charity appearance, and reportedly told friends they were considering selling the England property. "They just want peace," a source told a tabloid. But peace is the one thing they can't buy anymore. Those words hit harder than anyone expected. Then, in early evening light one Friday, a new clip surfaced Ellen at a dinner years ago, surrounded by celebrities, telling a story about being invited to the wildest party in Hollywood. It was meant as a joke, but now it was evidence in the public imagination. In the video, she laughs and says, "I left early. I like to keep my secrets boring." That line replayed endlessly on social media. She admitted it. Commenters shouted. Others rolled their eyes, calling it satire. But in the game of perception, the scoreboard had already been decided. Through all this, Joe Rogan's audience grew even larger. Every time he mentioned the word silence, people clipped it and tied it back to Ellen. Influencers used it for reaction videos, with thumbnails screaming, "Joe just exposed Hollywood again." It became a cultural shorthand, the talk show queen, who wouldn't talk. And then came the night that changed everything. A hacker collective, known for leaking celebrity data, posted a cryptic message. The kindness files dropped Sunday. No one knew if it was real, but the internet lost its mind. People speculated that emails, texts, or videos were about to be revealed. Journalists scrambled, security experts warned caution, and fans braced for impact. Sunday command, nothing happened. No leaks, no files, just silence. The group vanished, deleting their account. But the absence of proof only made people believe more. Ellen's silence was now a black hole, swallowing every rumor thrown at it. Every unanswered question became fuel for another story. Every refusal to comment became confirmation for someone's theory. The line between fiction and truth blurred until no one could tell where the story ended and the gossip began. Somewhere in the middle of it all, Joe said on another episode, half joking, "Ellen's probably just gardening, man. The internet's insane." His co-host laughed, but his tone had changed. He sounded tired of the conversation, maybe even guilty for starting it. Still, the audience didn't care. The story had taken on a life of its own, bigger than Rogan, bigger than Ellen, bigger than any of them by the next week. A new rumor started circulating. Ellen had signed a deal for a docuseries titled The Other Side of Kindness. No studio confirmed it. No trailer appeared, but somehow the name stuck. People started making fake posters, mock trailers, countdowns. Whether she was planning a comeback or not, the world had already written one for her. And through it all, Ellen said nothing. Not a statement, not a clarification, not even a denial. The once talkative host who built a career on conversations had become the ghost of her own narrative. Joe's question still echoed across timelines, podcasts, and forums. The silence had stretched so long that people forgot what started it. Now, it wasn't about answers. It was about obsession. One fan summed it up perfectly under a viral tweet. "She doesn't need to talk anymore. We're all talking for her." That, perhaps, was the cruelest irony of all. As days turned into weeks, the noise didn't fade, it evolved. Ellen's silence had become a cultural fixation, a puzzle that everyone wanted to solve, but no one really could. Talk shows, gossip podcasts, and even late-night hosts kept circling back to her, sometimes joking, sometimes defending, but never truly letting her name rest. There were endless theories, some believable, some bizarre. A few claimed she was secretly working on a tell-all memoir. Others said she joined a quiet meditation retreat in Scotland to escape it all. Whatever the truth was, one thing was certain: the internet refused to let her go. One evening, a grainy paparazzi video emerged from London. Ellen and Portia were spotted entering a small restaurant, dressed casually, their heads down. The clip barely lasted 15 seconds, but it became the next big storm. Viewers claimed Ellen looked different, tired, wary, aged beyond her years. Some swore she mouthed something like, "They won't stop." Others argued it was nothing more than a trick of the light, but perception had already chosen its version of events. Within hours, hashtags like #EllenReturns and #SheKnows were trending worldwide. Joe Rogan mentioned the situation briefly during one of his shows, sounding almost regretful. "I didn't mean to start a witch hunt," he said. "I just thought it was weird how selective people are about outrage." But by then, the narrative was far beyond his control. The moment he said Ellen's name again, social media clipped it, twisted it, and flooded time. With dramatic titles like "Joe Doubles Down" and "Rogan Reignites the Ellen Fire." It didn't matter. That his tone was calm and detached context had stopped mattering weeks ago. Behind the scenes, Hollywood insiders whispered that Ellen had quietly met with her old publicist team. There were reports of secret Zoom meetings, discussions about image rehabilitation, and negotiations for a potential documentary deal that would set the record straight. One insider claimed, "Ellen doesn't want to defend herself. She wants to redefine herself." Whether that was true or not, it fit perfectly into the public's growing hunger for a redemption arc. Everyone loves a downfall, but they love a comeback even more. Meanwhile, Rogan's question, "Why is no one talking about Ellen?" took on a life of its own. It became a meme, a challenge, even a slogan for internet skeptics. People used it whenever celebrities faced scandals but remained protected by their image. The phrase started appearing on t-shirts, posters, and comment threads across platforms. What began as a casual observation had become part of pop culture's vocabulary. Ellen's old colleagues stayed quiet. Her writers, producers, and former guests all declined interviews. Some cited non-disclosure agreements. Others said they didn't want to be dragged into the circus. But in the absence of real voices, fake ones rose. Anonymous accounts claiming to be former staffers began posting long confessions online. Some believable, some clearly fabricated. One of them wrote, "Ellen never shouted. She just looked at you." That was worse than yelling. It was probably fiction, but it didn't matter. The audience believed what felt true, not what was true. Then another twist arrived. A short documentary dropped on a streaming platform not from Ellen, but from an independent journalist who pieced together every viral clip, every rumor, every timeline, into a film called The Kindness Paradox. It explored the fall of Ellen's image, the internet's obsession, and how Joe Rogan's question became the spark that reignited a storm. The documentary didn't accuse her of anything. It simply laid out the chaos she left behind. Yet, somehow, it made things worse. Viewers walked away more convinced than ever that something was being hidden in one chilling sequence. The film showed a montage of Ellen's most cheerful moments, her dancing, laughing, hugging guests slowly fading into silence while Joe's voice played over it. Silence is loud. It says everything. That single line became the clip everyone shared. By the next morning, millions had seen it. And once again, Ellen's name was trending worldwide. Some fans grew exhausted. "Let her go," they begged. "She gave us years of laughter, and now you're dissecting every breath she takes." Others weren't ready to move on. "She built her career on knowing everything about everyone else," one tweet said. "So why should she get to stay quiet?" Then came one final twist post from Ellen herself. It appeared late at night, no caption, just a short video filmed from what looked like her garden. She was sitting under a tree, wearing a simple sweater, no makeup, looking straight into the camera. "I've been watching," she said softly. "I've seen what's been said, what's been twisted, what's been believed. I don't owe anyone an explanation, but maybe I owe myself one. Silence isn't guilt. Sometimes it's survival." The video ended, there no fade out, no outro, just darkness. That single minute of footage sent the internet into complete meltdown. News outlets ran it in endless loops. Some called it haunting, others called it calculated. A few said it was the most honest thing she'd ever done. Joe Rogan mentioned it briefly on his show, saying, maybe that's her answer. Maybe that's all there is. For the first time, his tone wasn't skeptical, it was almost sympathetic. Ellen disappeared again after that post. No more photos, no more videos. Her account stayed up, but inactive. The world eventually moved on, chasing newer scandals and fresher controversies. But the story never truly ended. Every few months, a new wave of curiosity surfaced. New edits appeared, and someone would always ask that same question Joe asked years ago: why is no one talking about Ellen? Some say she's living quietly somewhere by the sea, painting and tending to animals. Others swear she's planning a secret project that will shock everyone. No one really knows. But the echoes of that story remain a reminder of how fast fame can turn into folklore, how a single comment can reshape an entire legacy, and how silence, in the right light, becomes the loudest sound in the room. Ellen's story isn't one of guilt or innocence anymore. It's a reflection on the internet, on fame, and on the way people consume drama like oxygen. Joe Rogan's words opened a door that can't be closed again. And now, long after the noise has faded, one truth still lingers in every corner of the web. Sometimes, it's not the scandals that haunt Hollywood, it's the silences that follow them. And as the dust finally settles, one thing's clear: this story isn't really about Joe Rogan or Ellen DeGeneres anymore. It's about how quickly fame turns into folklore, how one podcast comment can spark a storm, and how silence can echo louder than confession. Whether you think Ellen is hiding, healing, or just done with Hollywood, the debate has already written her legacy. The woman who built a career by making others speak became the one everyone wanted to hear. For Mand, maybe that's the cruelest twist of all. But what do you think? Do you believe Ellen's silence means something? Or is the internet just addicted to its own noise? Are people right to question? Or have we gone too far chasing rumors and theories? Whatever side you're on, this conversation isn't ending anytime soon. If you've been following this deep dive, make sure you hit that like button, share this video with someone who remembers the Ellen era, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Joe Rogan was out of line, or was he simply asking the question everyone else was too scared to ask? Subscribe for more stories, more breakdowns, and more unfiltered looks at the headlines Hollywood doesn't want to talk about. Because in a world that's always whisperings, sometimes the loudest thing you can do is listen.